Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Intelligent Training Holistic Health. We are your hosts, James and Francesca, and today we're going to be discussing recovery. So,
First of all, why is recovery so important?
why is recovery so important? Very good question. Again, very context specific. It really depends on what you are recovering for, but in general terms, recovery is very important because if you don't recover adequately, then you're going to be extremely tired. So recovery is important whether you have a specific goal within the gym, performance goal, or just day to day. You need to recover so you feel your best.
And also the adaptations of, let's say, a resistance training session happens outside of the session.
Yeah.
You're not, when you're in the gym, you're putting all the stimulus in and doing the things in order to create the change.
Yeah.
But the important part is the recovery outside of that. So making sure you're recovering well in order to make that change happen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So within the gym, you stimulate within the gym.
Yeah.
And you adapt outside the gym when you recover.
And obviously, if you're not recovering well enough, those adaptations aren't as good.
No, 100%.
So that is why recovery is so important.
It is so important, yeah. So if you are looking for a specific adaptation, then you need the recovery to create the adaptation. Yeah. So you can stimulate all you want. So this is a big thing with athletes, actually. This is one big thing that you have to look at. And a lot of the times they will overstimulate and under-recover.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the people that are very gung-ho, they want to get into the gym and they want to train as much as they can. This can be a detriment to your gains because you're not taking the time to recover.
Yeah.
So recovery is so important. And a lot of times if you're dealing with athletes, you need to bring them back a little bit, trying to stop the stimulation and increase the recovery.
And I think that sometimes what can be a common mistake that people, particularly beginners, I guess, who have never trained before, is they go into training all guns blazing because it's that all or nothing approach, and everybody thinks more is better. So they go with all the gym sessions, trying to attend all the classes, go insane, but they forget about the recovery aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so obviously their results plateau very quickly and they get very burnt out. Yeah. Because they're not prioritizing that recovery.
Yeah, you need to put as much effort into your recovery as you do into your training.
I think that's what we said in the last podcast, and that's why we are solely doing just recovery today, because it is such a important topic.
Yeah, and we were talking about it last night. Khabib, so one of the best UFC fighters of all time, he was so disciplined, and he knew. So one of the best things you can do for your recovery, or the best thing you can do for your recovery, is sleep. So he knew this. So he would train twice a day, and when he wasn't training, he'd be sleeping because he knew it was the best thing for his recovery.
And people take the piss out of me for napping all the time.
There you go.
Please.
And it's just because you're recovering.
I just know what's up.
She's wiser than she looks, people. You are Khabib.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, all right. So we'll get into the best things you can do for your recovery. As we just said there, number one is sleep.
Yeah.
Number two, so it's a tough one. I would probably say parasympathetic activity. Trying to tap into that is going to be very, very important.
I think we should just explain what parasympathetic activity is for people who aren't quite sure.
You're trying to say our listeners don't understand what parasympathetic activity means?
I'm saying other.
Okay, yeah. So there is. Okay, so there are two different parts to your autonomic nervous system. So your autonomic nervous system is part of your central nervous system that goes off without you even knowing about it. So there is one side of the sympathetic nervous system. You'll know this as the fight or flight. So if someone jumps out and spooks you, you feel you get a little anxious, everything gets ramped up, cortisol ramps up, your peripheral vision will go, you just get very dialed in. So this is the nervous system that you would utilize within the gym. So this is very heightened into the body. And in this state, your reproduction will shut down. Everything that is not needed for immediate survival will shut down. So you can see So if you're stressed a lot, so this is a very stressed state for the body. So this is very unrelaxing state to be in.
This is why you don't get hungry, and particularly why you're probably not hungry immediately after the gym.
Yeah,
because you're still in that
state. In that state, yeah, and everything is heightened.
Yeah,
and then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite side. So this is also known as the rest and digest part of your nervous system.
This is my favorite side,
and this is where Franny spends the majority of her time. So she's like a bear. She recovers like a bear. So the parasympathetic nervous system, this is where reproduction will happen. This is where, like it said, rest and digest. This is where your food will digest a lot easier because you're in a more relaxed state. So this is basically the part of your nervous system which is much more relaxing. And this, when you're in this part of your body or in this part of the nervous system, this is where anabolism will happen. So the creation of new cells or the building of new cells, this is where this happens. So this is the ultimate system for recovery. This is just purely recovery.
This is why you shouldn't be eating and watching UFC fights.
Yeah, this is why you shouldn't be eating while you're doing anything too stressful.
Yeah.
And this is the reason. So with some of my clients that have like big meetings and then they'll go back and eat, this is why I always try and get them to do some breathing techniques before they eat, because it will take them out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is very poor for digestion, and put them into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is very good for digestion.
Do you know what we were talking earlier about, just going a bit off topic, we were talking earlier about religion, and it doesn't, whatever the religion is, we said it's quite a good thing to have because it gives you a set of values and gives you that discipline. For example, I guess Muslims pray 5 times a day, and they obviously have a lot of discipline to ensure that they do that 5 times a day. And we were talking about the values of that, and I do think sometimes with religion it is quite a good thing when people sit around the table and they pray before they have dinner.
Absolutely.
Because actually they're just taking that time to slow down and rest for a second, be thankful. It's probably a way of, without them doing it purposefully, getting into a rest and digest state. Absolutely. And then eating.
Great you brought that up, actually, because so one of the reasons that happens, so when you do get together with big groups, especially people you love and you're really connected with, you release oxytocin as well. So oxytocin is kind of the love molecule. So this is another, so oxytocin will drive you into your parasympathetic nervous system. So oxytocin, so this is why if you give somebody a hug that you really love, this is where you're going to feel more relaxed. After sex, so sex with somebody you love, not just banging somebody on the weekend, people, but somebody you love that you really connect with, you'll get a big release of oxytocin here. And this is often why after sex people will just fall asleep, because it's driven you so far into that parasympathetic nervous system that is so relaxing.
Yeah.
So that's a brilliant thing you've mentioned about like eating in groups. So when we do eat and we are distracted, or we're watching something that heightens our nervous system, then that's going to stick us again into the sympathetic nervous system, which isn't good for recovery or digestion. Yeah. So like you said, if you're eating in a big group of people that you love, you're probably going to get a release of oxytocin as well. So then it's going to push you even further into that parasympathetic nervous system.
And you're also going to slow down your eating, because generally when you have a big family style meal, you're chatting, you stop. Yeah, everything slows down. Everything's much more relaxed. Yeah. And it's such a better state to be eating in.
Yeah.
And then all the other benefits on top.
Yeah. So so when with, like, for example, our online clients, I have a whole parasympathetic menu. So I'll send them this menu because I always try and get them to do at least 30 minutes of parasympathetic activity per day. So I'll send them a menu and I'll say, pick off this menu, what you kind of vibe with. So if it's like for example, having an Epsom salt bath or something like that. If you don't like baths, that's not going to be very relaxing to you. So that's not going to put you into your parasympathetic state. But somebody who loves baths, then that will put them into that state. So that's why on this menu, there's all different activities you can do. But just if you can try and get 30 minutes parasympathetic activity per day, that's really going to help you. And I'll try and get people to do it bookends of the day. So in the morning, it's very important. Try and get some in the morning. So if you go out, take the dog for a walk, just relax, a bit of reading, that can do it. And then in the evening, with a lot of my clients, I'll try and get them to do breathing techniques before bed, or just watch something chilled. So if you're going to watch TV, watch something a little easy. So watch like something like Modern Family. It's nice, it's fun, it's relaxing. If you're watching, for example, like Franny said, if you're going to watch a UFC fight before bed, that's not going to be very relaxing. That will heighten your nervous system, and then it's going to be harder for you to sleep.
Yeah, not if you're like us anyway, because we get so into it.
Yeah, we get to it. Yeah.
But there's the same, you know, if you have children and it's quite chaotic in the morning, it's often possibly more difficult for you to find that downtime. But even just 5 minutes, if you've got 5 minutes of quiet time, maybe, you know, maybe the kids are having a nap, maybe they're playing or watching something, and you have that little bit of quiet time, even just sitting there and doing some breathing techniques in the morning first thing, where you can just shut down 5 minutes,
5 minutes
just to get
just
yourself,
and you want to really feel yourself slow down. So don't just go through the motions, be like, I'm gonna do my breathing, whatever it is. Really try and feel it. So you want to feel your body slow down.
It's not something to just tick off. It's either something to be really present and do, or don't do at all.
So try and be as present as you can, because that's the thing with the parasympathetic nervous system. You're not going to be able to trick it. It's so deep, you're not going to trick it. So you have to be properly relaxed.
So you've got,
and then the third one on that list, I would probably say cardio. So what we mentioned about the other day, the zone 2 cardio, building that base of the pyramid.
So that was on our last
podcast. The cardio podcast. So if you can build that base, so if you have a bigger aerobic capacity, you have a bigger capacity to deal with stress.
So can we give examples, because obviously everybody's idea of cardio is different, and some people might go, oh, that means I can go and do like a crazy HIIT session and
okay, so what we said specifically, if you're trying to build the aerobic capacity, like we mentioned before, sticking in a heart rate zone of around 120 to around 150, around that kind of heart rate zone, just continuously staying in that heart rate zone for 30 minutes, 45 minutes plus. That's where you really start building that kind of zone 2 cardio, that aerobic capacity, and then that's going to allow you to buffer stress a lot more as well.
So that's a great cardio range to stay within if you're looking to do some recovery training.
For sure, because it's not going to be too taxing to the nervous system, and then it's only going to enhance everything else. So you're going to recover easier between sessions. You're going to sleep better. Everything's just going to be a bit easier for you.
So you've got 3 best things we think for recovery: sleep.
Number 1. And so we could dive into sleep, but we've delved into sleep quite a few times. So go back and listen to one of the sleep podcasts, or we can always link it.
We do have.
So sleep is the number 1 thing you're ever going to do for your recovery. So if you're sleeping poorly, but you're trying to enhance your performance, that is going to be the lowest hanging fruit you can knock off. So nail your sleep, and then start looking at other things. But where we try and look at all the other things before ticking off the big things. So everyone will always go to supplementation. They'll be like, oh, I'll take melatonin, that will help me sleep. Like, no, just get a regular sleep schedule.
Get your sleep hygiene in
first. Do sleep hygiene, and then start looking at other things. Okay, so sleep is the biggest one, but watch that podcast, or we've got multiple blogs on it, but we'll link them in the show notes. Next one is parasympathetic activity. So try and get into that part of your nervous system. That would be really important. That would probably be one of the best ones. And then number 3 is enhancing your cardio. So if you could increase your aerobic capacity, then that's going to increase your capacity to deal with stress, and then that's going to allow you to recover better.
And then, of course, another big thing on recovery that I think people find they'd like to know a bit more about, is a bit more interesting, is food. What foods are best for recovery? What can aid recovery?
So number 1 was protein, especially if you're resistance training. If you're in the gym, you're going to need adequate protein to recover. So one thing a lot of people miss out is with the protein part of things, they'll go to the gym, they'll train, but they won't eat enough protein. So what ends up happening is you're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. So what I mean by that is, for example, if it's not this basic, but let's say it is, if you go in and you train your legs on Monday, but you haven't eaten adequate protein, your body is going to steal protein, or it'll break down muscle tissue, and it'll give that. So for example, it will break down muscle tissue from your biceps, and it's going to give that protein to your legs.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I was listening to Dr. Andy Galpin the other day, and it was talking about exactly the same thing, and saying that lots of people get themselves confused with this is because say they want to work on their biceps. So they go into the gym and they're training biceps more often because they just want to get really big biceps, but they're not having adequate enough protein. So then the muscles, let's say, from their legs are now getting redistributed into their biceps. They think, brilliant, I've made gains, I've grown more muscle. When exactly what you just said, they're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. So all they're doing is taking it from their legs, and now it's in their biceps. They think, great. And then when they want their legs to grow again, they're like, oh, and then it'll just keep happening unless.
So without the actual building blocks, there's going to be no net gain. You're just stealing from one place to pay the other place, and that will continually happen. And this is what you see with people that don't have their nutrition on point. That continually happens. So they'll be going to the gym, they'll be doing the right things, but they're not gaining the muscle mass because they haven't got the raw materials to build it. It's like going to it's like building an extension on your house, but you keep taking bricks away from the house to build the extension. You're never going to have an extension. You're just going to have different parts of the house get broken down to build something else. So that's what's going to happen. So you have to make sure you have the raw materials there to build what you want to build. So with that said, I would aim for around, a good estimation is around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So let's do easy maths. If you weigh 100 kilos.
You know you're sitting next to me. That's why you said that.
Okay. So if you weigh 100 kilos, what's it going to be?
I know.
So it's going to be 160 grams of protein is what you're going to need if you weigh 100 kilograms. Okay, so you want 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So we're not going to do the calculations for you people. Get your calculators out. And
but
that would be a good place to start.
And if you end up tracking and you do this and you're way below, don't try and jump to that number immediately. Just build it up a little bit at a time. Change certain things that you can, exchange certain snacks for higher protein, and start sneaking more protein into your diet. Don't think, oh my God, I'm so below that. I need to just jump straight away, because it won't last.
No, it won't last. So that's it. Build it up. And a good way to aim is try and get like a palm-sized piece of protein at every meal. Okay, so try and get palm-sized piece of protein at every meal. So that's an easy way to gauge it. So look at your hand, stick it on the plate, and then just cover that in protein.
So protein is obviously always our number one for pretty much everything we'll ever talk about. We bang on about protein all the time.
Because it's so important.
But other foods.
Carbs can be very helpful. So if you, again, this can help with sleep. So if you back end a few of your carbs, this can help. So carbs will increase a bit of insulin. They'll decrease cortisol. So cortisol is like your kind of stress hormone. So this one will help with sleep. And then they can also help push tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier. So tryptophan is an amino acid, it's a part of protein. Tryptophan will basically goes through different process to turn to 5-HTP. You might know 5-HTP as a supplement for sleep. So this is 5-hydroxytryptophan. So then this converts to serotonin. So you might know serotonin is like your happy hormone. And then serotonin will eventually turn into melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So then through this kind of pathway, you can end up helping with recovery by helping putting yourself to sleep. So if you're somebody that does struggle with sleep, trying to have a little bit of protein with your last meal and then a decent amount of carbs, this can really help with sleep. So back-ending carbohydrates can be really helpful as well for recovery.
And
another one. We can do, or you can supplement this. So tart cherry juice is one I've told people before for helping with sleep. So this is another one. You can have this in the evening. So it has a bunch of phytochemicals in there, and especially again like melatonin, like I just mentioned. So within tart cherry juice, there is melatonin, and melatonin is obviously a sleep hormone, which can help you sleep. So there's a few foods that will help with sleep. There's obviously more than that, but there'll be 3 good ones to knock off to help with recovery.
And you can see the common theme here is we're talking about recovery, but all of these things help with sleep. And sleep is like, I'd say it's number one recovery. So we have not been able to evolve without needing sleep.
No. And that's the thing, this is what I was talking to a friend yesterday. Doesn't get as much sleep. And then was worrying about the body composition. So I think we spoke about it before. So the respiratory exchange ratio, if you don't have enough sleep, your respiratory exchange ratio will change. So instead of burning the majority of fuel that the body wants from fat, which it should be burning fat. So if you have adequate sleep, then your body's going to burn fat. if you don't have adequate sleep, then your body will burn more carbohydrates or glycogen or muscle tissue. Okay, so you'll be broken down muscle tissue and not burning fat. So if you sleep correctly, you will burn fat and keep muscle tissue. If you don't sleep correctly, you'll burn muscle tissue and keep fat. So just by hearing that, probably people thinking, I need to sleep better.
Yeah.
So sleep is so important. So for number one, if we are talking recovery, sleep is going to be always number one. So get that ticked off first.
Yeah. And there, like I said, we've got the podcast out there. There are loads of ways to try and increase your sleep quality and quantity.
Yeah.
But always the sleep quality, and it takes practice.
And with recovery, these, as you can tell, we're not selling any of this. You don't need to go and buy an ice bath.
Nope.
You don't need to buy any fancy supplements. You don't need to buy anything. These are all things that you can easily tick off. And we're not going to sell you anything. No one needs to sell you anything. But these are the basics. So stick with the basics before you jump into all the other things.
Yeah. Everything that can make the biggest difference on your recovery and on your sleep will be free. And anyone who sells you anything that will help will be like buying supplements.
Yeah.
It's something that you can look at when you have everything else that's free in order. It's the same with food. It's the same, isn't it? You don't need supplements. You don't need to worry about all your supplements until you've got your shit together with your food and you're eating a well-balanced diet.
Yeah. And a big one at the moment is recovery is ice baths. So you'll see ice baths all over social media at the moment.
Yeah. I think they've got these it even got me bloody Instagram ads. There's these blow up ones, for people I guess who maybe live in apartments or smaller places. They got these like blow up ones that you can fill up and they look really cool because you just dunk yourself in. Really cool, but really unnecessary.
And what they promote for cold water immersion, they've blown it way out of proportion. Like cold water immersion is brilliant. It can do so many things. It can be very beneficial for recovery. But what they say it does it's nowhere near what they say it does. So don't believe the hype.
It's nowhere near as magical.
It's nowhere near as magical as what they say. And if you are resistance training, so if you're looking to build muscle, so if you're at a gym, you're probably looking to build muscle. Getting in an ice bath can attenuate the muscle building process. So what it does when you go to the gym, you create inflammation, you create like a cascade of different cytokines and different hormones are going on to help you build muscle. So when you jump in a cold water tub, what cold water does is really good at blunting inflammation. So when you jump in a cold water tub, it blunts all that inflammation. So it prevents protein synthesis. So it prevents muscles from building. It prevents the anabolic cascade of hormones. So it'll blunt that. So you want all these anabolic hormones to start rebuilding things, but the cold water immersion will blunt that. So it blunts a lot of things. So if you are looking to build muscle, jumping in an ice bath within 2 or 3 days of you training will blunt that. So even if you train on Monday, jumping in an ice bath on Wednesday, if you're looking to maximize hypertrophy or building muscle, probably not a good idea. So you need to know what is your outcome. So if you're a CrossFit athlete and you have multiple events in a day, and then you exercise, you do your event, and then you jump in cold water immersion, then that's a great idea because that's going to prevent the inflammation. You'll be quite sore. That will help there. But if you're looking to adapt from the stimulus, then it's going to blunt the adaptation. But when CrossFit athletes, if they're doing multiple events, they're not looking to adapt. They're purely looking to recover. Yeah. So there's a difference between adaptation and just pure recovery.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you need to know what you're trying to get out of the protocol you were putting yourself through. So you have to make sure it aligns with your goals.
So let's say somebody trains resistance training 3 or 4 days a week.
Yep.
And they are looking to build muscle, get that lean look, and they want to put ice baths in.
Yeah.
When would you put it in?
I would train for the first 3 or 4 days and then do it on the last day. Then do it on the last day of the week. So you're away.
So you've got.
Yeah. So then you have time. But then that still could blunt. If you are trying to maximize muscle building, don't bother ice bathing.
Mm.
But then ice bathing can have effect mentally.
That's exactly what I was just about
So
to
there's a
point to.
few. So, but it's just it's a cost analysis. So you have to weigh it up to the benefits outweigh the costs.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to maximize muscle, then probably not. You probably don't want to do it. But if you're struggling mentally and you want to do it for a bit more kind of depression and you feel and find it helps you, then maybe jump in the ice bath.
Because I think sometimes I think people do it more for the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
Even if they don't realize,
you know, yeah. I mean, when I was at the beginning of the year, when I wasn't feeling as brilliant, I was jumping in ice baths, even though I knew it was going to affect my training.
Yeah.
I thought I need this more mentally than I do
for the physical.
Huge biceps.
Yeah.
But I did both. Everybody says well.
Oh wow, well done. No, but it is true. Even I, because that's one thing I found it's like the rucksack walking that we do.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a mental thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes because I think we've weight trained so long, I know I can push myself mentally in the gym.
Yeah.
And so I need something else that is a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit more alien to me.
Yeah.
And jumping in cold, if anybody who knows me
she doesn't like cold.
knows I also don't like cold. So if I jump in the cold, that's something mentally, that's the biggest gains of all out of it for me. I don't think about any of the other aspects of it. I just think, oh, it's such a mental challenge and it makes you feel so accomplished after that. That's absolutely what I'd use it for. Yeah.
Because that's the thing with a lot of these trends will come up and they'll go viral everywhere. So if you probably can't go on your social media without seeing somebody jump into an ice bath.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people don't know the actual mechanisms behind it, and they don't know how it can be affecting other parts of the body, other systems. They're just saying, "Oh, this is amazing for everything."
Yeah.
Because they're trying to sell you to go into an ice bath.
Yeah.
But once you look into the research, so to be fair, I was a bit more on that kind of side of things until I did 2 days of research into cold water immersion, and realized it's not what it's all.
You looked at every
hanging up to be, So if you want to read, I've got a blog on it all, and it will tell you about it all.
Yeah.
A link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But it's not what it's cracked up to be. But this is everything you see on social media. It's not normally cracked up what everyone says it is. But
no, and
but it definitely has its benefits. There's definitely benefits to it, but you just need to know the benefits and see if they outweigh the costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably all right.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good amount on recovery today.
That's good.
So,
if you have any, if there are any questions, drop them in the comments as always. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
See ya.